special guest today. She has been a hungry entrepreneur starting at a very young age. Among her many accolades, she was the founder and former owner of Edge Packaging Systems, which provided industrial packaging solutions to large manufacturers. Not only that, but she now runs her own company called Edge Consultants. She is the one stop shop. She's a LinkedIn trainer and profile makeover artist, a certified executive coach, a professional networking and leads generation expert, professional speaker, and business consultant. Hopefully, I'm not forgetting anything, but that's really to help individuals and companies grow their businesses substantially. Without further ado, we have the honor of having a good friend of mine on the show, Peggy Edge. So, Peggy, you grew up from humble beginnings in a small town in East Texas called Mount Pleasant. Now, fast forward to present day, you have run multiple successful ventures. What was really the main reason for your motivation to really be your own boss?
Well, I think from the standpoint of Edge Packaging and Edge Consultings, it was I got fired from what I was doing. I worked for an international company for about 14 years, and I sold hardcore, what I call hardcore industrial packaging products. These are things that you normally don't see on the shelf in a Walmart or a Dillard's or someplace like that. But it was the product that got those products out the door of a manufacturer or a distributor. And I worked for that company for a total of 14 years, and they fired me. They fired me on a Wednesday, and on Monday, I went in business for myself as Edge Packaging Systems.
That's great, Peggy, and appreciate you telling us about that. Let me ask you this. During your time at Edge Packaging Systems, was there any sort of story that you have where you were distributing a very sort of abstract product, a weird product that you didn't really know about, but you were able to execute it and work on it?
Sure. I know a lot about stretch film and stretch film machines, but I know enough to be dangerous about shrink film. And most people call stretch film shrink film, but it's two different products. But I know Frank, and Frank is a specialist in shrink equipment and shrink film and how to apply that to products. So I would just call him. I partnered with him on numerous projects over the years, and I felt comfortable enough with him that I could say, Frank, go see Joe Bob. He's got a packaging situation out there, and he needs your help. So I was able to not say no to that prospective client and that's part of networking, as we'll get into a bit here, because if you say yes to a client, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know people. And that's one of the keys to networking, is knowing people and knowing how to use their expertise to further your own situation, I think.
Excellent point, Peggy. So my next question is actually directly tying into the first question I had for you. What was really the secret sauce, so to speak, to your success, and why?
As far as networking or just business in general?
I would say business and tying it into networking as well.
Well, number one, I'm an only child, an only grandchild, and only had one child. Okay. So I always had to have OPs, other people for brothers and sisters. And so I guess I was just born kind of a natural networker and a very inclusive kind of person, because every time I'd have a birthday party, I would want to invite the whole class at school. So, I think that's probably what got me started when I was a kid even. And then I met my husband through his brother. That was networking. I didn't know what it was called back then, obviously. And, pretty much everything I've done in my business career has been through networking, just knowing people, getting to know people, and what they can do to help me or what I can do to help them further their business,
Right. So another poignant question I had for you was tying in Edge packaging systems to now Edge consultants. What was the transition really like for you from owning and operating Edge packaging systems and doing a lot of the work yourself as being that really owner operator from that standpoint to now running Edge consultants?
Well, Edge packaging is products and equipment. And I have no problem selling a widget of any kind, but the conversion into being a consultant and selling a service was a little harder for me because you give me anything, that I can get in my hands or I can demonstrate it and I can sell that. But I think the hardest thing for me was just the service side, trying to explain what it is that I can do for you as a prospective client. That's been probably my biggest challenge over the last 5 years that I've been doing that.
What challenges have you come across either through Edge packaging systems or Edge consultants where you've dealt with a kind of a bad apple client or a client that you took on, but maybe you took it on with too much tenacity, so to speak, a client that maybe you wouldn't ever do business with again? Was there ever a time that you've experienced that?
Yeah. I think everybody has that in their life, if they're in sales. I had two ladies that were doing some products that were chocolates. And my company designed the packaging for that. And one of the clients was she was an attorney, and the other was an interior designer. And that attorney, she chewed me up and out and over and everything, as well as, just made it to the point that I thought, God, just get me through this so I can get on and get out from under it. But yeah, and I would never do business with them again, but they don't have their chocolate company anymore either. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Karma, sometimes it will bite people and people just won't even expect it or know it to come. So
yeah, and they were friends of mine.
There you go.
Sort of.
Yeah.
we were close. We were not close anymore.
Right. Right. Well, Peggy, tying back into Edge packaging systems, obviously the DFW market, Texas in general, is huge right now on the industrial side. Coming from a commercial real estate standpoint, industrial has been like the hottest product type over the past decade for a lot of these investors. And a lot of money is coming in from other parts of the country, even other parts of the world. What were some of the projects that you took on with Edge packaging systems here in DFW for some of those bigger name institutional groups? Because I know you worked with a lot of bigger manufacturers.
Well, when we were talking earlier today, I was telling you about the wholesale lumber industry. And a lot of people say, well, what does the lumber yard use? Lots of things. And I did business with some very large national corporations. Another deal that I did that we were talking about earlier is a company that manufactures cell phones. And they had a kitting where they put the phones in a kit. You go to the store and you buy a cell phone. It's in a box and it's got, the charger and it's got the instructions and some other things in it. Well, to get that to the end user, they would put so many of those in a master pack box and then so many of those on a pallet. And I had nothing to do with putting the kit together. But once they put all of those corrugated boxes on a pallet, well, that's where my products picked it up. So we started with 10 foot of gravity conveyor with that pallet on it. And it went to a machine, a strapping machine that had a 55-inch by 55-inch hole that it went through, and it strapped it twice. And the company that I worked for, this was not through Edge Packaging. It was just before I started my own company, but we manufactured their strapping with their logo on it. It was blue. Their colors were blue. And so we produced blue strapping for them and had their name on it. And so it strapped that twice. 10-foot of conveyor out the door, and then it went to a stretch wrap, say that 10 times, machine that had scales under it because those pallets all had to be weighed before they went on the truck. And so we had the manufacturer of the conveyors. The strapping machine was a third-party company that we had exclusive distributorship in the South. And then that stretch film machine was also a third-party machine. The scales came from another company, and then we had 10-foot of outfeed on that line, and we did 2 lines like that. And but I managed the putting together of all of that. Now, someone else did the purchasing for me, but I did all of the project management of getting it in. The company also was, they had that about 2 or 3 months, and then they moved. And so we had to deinstall all of that equipment, which was bolted to the floor, and then move it to their new facility and reinstall it. So I oversaw all of the training on all the equipment as well. And I provided all the products that ran through both the strapping machine and the stretch wrapper. So that was a pretty good sized project for us.
Wow, it sounds like that was a very impressive project.
Yeah.
How are you able to manage your time and manage all these different moving pieces with also Edge packaging systems, Edge consultants as well, but mainly in this case, how are you able to manage a project like that all on your own? I mean, and being able to dedicate time for that and allocating time for that.
One thing at a time. Lots of lists that you check off. Absolutely. I mean, it's a scheduling thing is all it really is, you got your equipment coming in at a certain time and then coordinating with all the people that have to actually do the installs. So
right.
Just a scheduling, just like you would schedule anything else.
Time management is so crucial.
Absolutely.
Especially nowadays society where we have social media and all these different distractions. I know sometimes I get distracted, and 99% of the world's population gets distracted when they look at their phone and it says, oh, you've been looking 7 hours a day or 7 hours a week, excuse me. And then the next week you see it's 8 hours a week, whether that's for work or for leisure. So that's very impressive on your part. And it just shows the viewers that it's super crucial to manage your time really well and effectively. So that's great. Peggy, I had another question for you. So among your many different titles and accolades, you're a leads generation expert, which I thought was really important because it ties directly into the purpose of our show to really bring our viewers more visibility, awareness, and really more leads through our Asset Locator podcast. What are some of the methods that you've typically used for gathering leads?
Well, back before the internet, quite often, when I mentioned earlier about having all the wholesale lumber yards in the Dallas area, I would go in, and my typical person that I called on was either operations manager or a plant manager in a manufacturing facility. But like in the lumber yards, I would say, well, who is your closest competitor that's here in the area? And like one particular manufacturer, they are international, and they specialize in cedar products. And so he told me 2 other lumber yards in the area that were cedar. They weren't producers, but they, actually bought from this larger company. And so I said, well, do you know anybody who's the operations guy or gal over there? And they would tell me. And so I'd just get in my car and drive down and say, I need to talk to Joe Bob, and he was my guy. And you've heard me tell my stories before because I talk about Joe Bob a lot, being from East Texas, And so I just kind of drive around and get people to give me who they were competing with, and quite often it's people they were partnering with as well. And but then just zeroing in on those niches, the wholesale lumber. I always attended the trade show that's and usually in San Antonio every year for the lumbermen of Texas, and I'd meet people there. I would go there specifically to find connections, because anybody who's in the wholesale lumber business goes to that show every year. And, a lot of people don't like to go to trade shows, but I loved it because it was a great opportunity to meet new people. And sometimes, I get to meet. One of the things I like about networking is that you always want to have one or two levels above the person you're calling on, because those operations guys, they normally only stay 3 to 5 years in a job, then they move down the road to another lumber yard somewhere. So, just ask. Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you will also get what you want. Now, it might not come directly back. If I give you a lead, you might get a lead from somewhere else, but that's the whole point about networking. But the other side of it, obviously now, is LinkedIn. And if you're not on LinkedIn, it's almost, I don't want to say you're a nobody, but you really have got to be working your LinkedIn connections. It's a great opportunity to grow your business because it is your personal brand and it is your company brand when you have that. So definitely got to be on LinkedIn these days, because you can definitely use it as a marketing tool. There's lots of low-hanging fruit there that people don't think about.
Right, exactly. And LinkedIn is actually a great tool for this, and actually leads into the next question that I had for you. So in your mind, what are some ways that a leads-based generation platform such as LinkedIn or a startup company could help grow startup businesses in today's age?
Well, I just talked to a lady last night, as a matter of fact, and she has a confection company. She bakes cakes, and she has a website, and she's been, showing pictures on her website of her beautiful cake. They look delicious. And I'm helping her a little bit with her LinkedIn profile, because on LinkedIn, you have to have a personal page before you can have a company page. And she has a personal page, but it's her day job. It's her 9 to 5 job. And everything that's on there is about that. And I told her, I said, you've got to start writing about your expertise. You've got to start sharing stuff from other people that you follow about the food industry, and specifically about baking sweets. And so, she needs to also make a list of who all of her connections are. You never think about all the connections that you have. Your frat brothers, your sorority sisters from college, your church connections, your hobbies, all the people that you know. People always think, well, it's just, somebody in business that's on the hot list, but everybody that you come in contact with is a prospective client, or they know somebody. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make about networking is that they will go to a networking event, and most of the people in that group, like our group, for example, almost all of us are independent, employees of ourselves. And, somebody will come in and go, well, these are all small business people. You don't know who I know. I don't know who you know, who you're connected with, that you could connect me, or I could connect you. So just like we were talking when we came in the door, I said, let me know who else you might be interested in interviewing, because, you guys call me the queen bee of networking. That's kind of a label that's stuck on me for a number of years, because I have been in this same group for 23 years. And I have a lot of people that I know in a lot of different businesses. So does that answer your question?
I think it did.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Peggy, can you tell the viewers about a major client success story while you've been running in all your years running Edge Consultants?
Sure. I've got several. I've got one right now that's my sister-in-law. Back in February, I was talking to her, and she's a physical therapy assistant, and you have to be licensed in the state of Texas to do that. I learned something new, but she's wanting to do a new job, because right now she's working contract, and she's on the road all the time, going from one client to the next client, has to do paperwork late at night. And she wanted to go to work for someone as an employee, where she's going to a clinic, She's not driving her car around town all day long. And so she had a sketchy LinkedIn profile. She had a sketchy resume. And so we started working on getting both of those getting current keywords in both of those pieces of those documents so that, our prospective employer could see those and possibly, find her a new job. And we started in February working on that. And she just last week accepted a job, full-time position with a physical therapy company here in the Tarrant County area. And I'm just ecstatic that I was able to help her do that. And being family, I think first she said, "Oh, I don't want you to do that. It's been on." I said, "Look, this is my specialty. This is what I do for a living. Let me help you." And, and it came to fruition. I've done a lot and also in career work with people wanting to either get a raise or find a new job. I've got a young lady that I worked with down in Tyler several years ago that had a standard 3.5% raise every year. And she had 3 employees that worked under her. They had gotten raises, but she had also completed a master's degree. She had she's a certified dietitian and also a certified diabetes person. And so the hospital, they get, when the manufacturer, when they sell a diabetes pump, well, they're supposed to get a spiff back for that. Well, no one had been applying for that, and their department was in the red. And she's going, "It's just paperwork. I just have to fill out paperwork." And she started doing that, and immediately their department got out of the red. I mean, just a simple thing like that. And so we worked for about 6 weeks, and I said, "I want you to write down everything that you have accomplished in your job so that when your review comes up, that you can sit down with your boss and you've got them on a piece of paper and you go, well, I did this, I did this, I did this," and then ask. And because it was in East Texas, I said, "I grew up down here. I know the mentality of some of the employers. Number one, you're a woman and you're not going to get offered as much as a man would in the same position, but we're going to see what we can get." Well, we did all this work and went in to see her boss on an appropriate day. And she started going down her list, and the lady was just, wow. And fortunately, her boss was able to let her do pretty much what she wanted to in that department, but she hadn't been compensated for it. And so the lady says, "Wow, this is very impressive that you've gone through all this." And she said, "Should I tell her that I've been working with a coach?" I said, "Why not? You might as well." And so the lady said, "I don't have the authority to give you more than the 3%, but I will pass this up the chain." About 2 weeks goes by. She starts getting phone calls from HR. "Well, what is it that you do now exactly? Tell us this about this thing," because they had passed all that up. And she got a 35% salary increase, and they totally reevaluated her job. For 3 years, she had gotten the same 3%. But just by going and asking, just like I said, if you don't ask, you don't receive. You got to ask. I mean, I was more ecstatic than she was, I think.
It's so cool how those things come back full circle. You start from somewhere and maybe you're down on your luck or something isn't really working out. You need to figure out what that missing cog, what that missing piece is. And once you figure that out, something so simple as starting to file paperwork and doing something, it could be menial or it could be something major. And it's just awesome how that all came back full circle. Now she's doing really well. I'm sure she's really happy with the success at her job, and that's going to propel her for, the next however many years she's going to continue to work there. So that's great.
Well, and one of the things that I do with my clients when I finish working with them is on their anniversary of working with them, I'll drop them a note, and say, "Hey, Is it time to go in and ask for the boss for another raise? If you don't ask, you don't receive, right?
Don't ask, you don't receive. That's exactly right. I had to learn that the hard way a couple of times, starting in my business and in my line of work too. So, well, Peggy, just wanted to really thank you again for jumping on the show today. And viewers, if you're really thinking about updating your LinkedIn profile, or if you really just need general guidance on how to network, how to gather more leads, among other things, I would suggest just doing a quick search on a webpage and typing in peggyedge.com. Feel free to check out her website. It has a lot of very important information on there. And if you want to ask questions, or if you're thinking about considering a change, how you network and trying to better yourself in that regard, feel free to give her a call or talk to her over email, LinkedIn, and some of the other social media platforms so you can really get that edge on your competition. So thank you.
Thank you.